Hey guys, if you're not following me on Twitter, check me out at SideQuest FM. Head over to Facebook and like SideQuest Fitness on Facebook. Follow me on Snapchat, SideQuest Fit. And head over and leave a review on iTunes as well. When you leave a review, it helps us move up the charts so more people can hear the amazing guests that I have on the show. So before we get into the show, I want to read one of the reviews that was left by a listener. This review is titled Just Discovered, ! 5-star review from Dr. Jeff 75. So Dr. Jeff, thank you for the great review. He says, I just discovered this one. Instead of focusing on one topic, this show focuses on the guest and how they incorporate fitness into their daily lives. Great show. Dr. Jeff, thank you for the review. Thank you for listening, and I'm glad you just discovered the podcast. Guys, if you want to have your review read on the air, so I can say thank you to you as a listener, head over to iTunes and leave a review. I would really, really greatly appreciate it, and maybe you will get to hear your review online. So now, let's get into the show. Hey guys, welcome to a brand new episode of SideQuest Podcast. Listen in and level up. I have a great guest for you today, a guest with a product that is coming out today that will really help you level up in the gym. You guys heard from Eric Bach a few months ago, but he is back to chat with us today about his brand new fitness product called Powerprimer 2.0. I've been working with this for the last month, and I can tell you one thing. It has been amazing. I thought coming off my bulk that I was going to have to train hard, train heavy, and really just continue to sort of push hard. This has really helped me see that I did not need to do that. I'm in and out of the gym in 60 minutes, but I'm getting more powerful, I'm getting stronger, and I'm able to move the bar a lot quicker. You'll discover in the podcast, in this episode, why that's important to strength training, why that's important as you age. As we age, we not only lose strength, but we lose the ability to displace power. Getting up out of a chair for older individuals can be really frustrating and difficult at times. They might have the strength, but they lack the power to get that hip extension to get them up out of a chair. The Powerprimer 2.0 focuses on helping you develop power, becoming a more explosive athlete, and connecting that mind-muscle connection, which you guys know I've talked about before and I've written about before, that really helps you develop, build more muscle, and burn more fat. This is a great, great program. As I said, I've been using it for the past 4 weeks, and it has blown me away. I didn't think I was going to be sore. I didn't think I was going to feel a lot, but I do. And I've really been able to push myself to an extreme and train in a different way than what I've been used to. I'm doing power cleans, I'm doing deadlifts, I'm doing squats, I'm doing all of those big movements, but I'm in and out of the gym in 60 minutes, and I don't have to be there any longer. Eric is a great, great, great resource. He deals a lot with athletes, but he also trains Gen Pop as well. And training like an athlete is important. You guys have heard that before in the Coach's Corner episode where we covered why it's important for everyone to train like an athlete. And Eric's program is on sale this week. It's coming out. So I'm going to let you guys know a little bit about it in this episode. We're going to talk about Powerprimer 2.0 and why training for power is important for your physique goals, important for your strength goals, but most importantly, why it's important to have power as we age and as we get older. All right, guys, let's listen to Eric. Let's hear from him, and I hope you guys enjoy this episode. All right, guys, welcome to the show. Returning once more. You guys heard him a few months ago, but he's Bach. Okay, that was a really bad attempt at humor. There's a reason I'm not a stand-up comedian. But welcoming back to the show, the one and the only Eric Bach. Eric, welcome back to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me. And honestly, I love the humor. I love the I'll be Bach getting tied in.
Oh man, there are so many times with your last name where I try to make like classical music references, and I'm like, no, I don't know how that's gonna work. I don't know how it's gonna work.
You'd be amazed, like the random tweets I get that I'll be Bach or something on those lines, or like, are you related to the composer? And half the time I bullshit with him and go with him. Yeah. That's my like 17th uncle or some bullshit.
That's how would you even like really trace? Like, I guess you could trace that, but like your 17th uncle, like, does that even like? How can you brag about that? Like, how do you go? Like, you walk up to a girl at the bar and you're like, "Hey, baby, so Johann Sebastian Bach? Yeah, he's my 17th uncle." Like, what the fuck is she gonna care? Like, you
Well,
can't.
well, if you're part of a bachelor party, that might work.
Oh, that's true. It might work. It might work if you're part of a bachelor party. Wink, wink.
That's
All
another
right.
story.
Well, Eric, you're coming back on the show because you have a great product coming out, the Powerprimer, and you can check that out over at thepowerprimer.com. But you've worked with athletes, professional athletes, collegiate athletes, and everyday Gen Pop, people as well. But I love all the stuff that you write and all the things you do for athleticism. You are the man when it comes to teaching cleans. I got to learn under your wing in Austin. I got back home and continued to yell at myself for not doing things right. Sitting back on my heels, I got to tell myself that, and keeping my knees soft on the cleans. But I knew I wanted to learn from you because I'm not kidding. When I watch you do cleans online, it's beautiful. It's crisp. It's perfect.
Oh, thank you, man. I'm blushing back here right now, but I really appreciate the kind words. And that was a blast in Austin, though, man. I mean, you got way better just like that, and by a few simple cues. I was awesome to see the progress you're making. So, thank you.
Well, I will take the compliment, but thank you, because it's been the Olympic lifts are they scare me because I don't have a lot of training with them, and there's so many like tiny little Lego blocks that you have to stack on top of each other to do them properly. That I'm terrified to do them without someone sort of coaching me through it. But you were excellent on that. But let's talk a little bit about your program and sort of where we're coming, where you're going with it. So why the Powerprimer? Why power?
Yeah. So, over the years, my clientele has, like you mentioned before, my clientele has changed. I've worked with athletes of different levels and a lot of general population. Now, what I found is I really enjoy working with kind of the ex-athlete population. Men and women who, used to play sports, used to be athletic, and they found some of that athleticism kind of going out the window. And then, guys in general that never really were athletic, but they want to train to build a great looking body and also have the ability to, handle anything life throws at them. So taking my background working with performance, I found that there's different ways to really get the best of both worlds. You don't just have to lift heavy and train like a power lifter, and you don't just have to train like an athlete or just like a bodybuilder. Really, the best way to get the best of all worlds is to build up a great base of movement and strength, and then incorporate some different types of power training. So this could be something as simple as incorporating jumps in the beginning of your workout before you get into your heavy weightlifting. This could be using different styles of Olympic lifts. This could be, lifting your squats instead of going, 85% and being really heavy. You could focus on a little bit lighter weight, maybe 60% of your max, and lifting it as if it was your max. So maximum explosive intent.
Okay, so expound a little bit on maximum explosive intent, because I know what that means, but I think for people who may not, I imagine myself in the gym and I've got let's just say 225 on the bar. And you go down and it's heavy, but you don't come up as fast as you could. How does that maximum explosive intent help you become stronger?
Yeah. So looking at maximum explosive intent, the first thing that really does is it focuses your mind. If you're taking a weight down under control and you have the mental capability to think that, hey, I need to generate as much force as I can to push this up, you're going to be completely honed in on that exercise. And, we both know how important focus is in terms of productivity or getting through your workout. So from a mental side, that's a huge bonus. But in addition to that, you're also going to recruit more high threshold motor units, which more or less means, your brain's going to send stronger signals back and forth to your muscles, and you're going to recruit a greater number of muscle fibers. So listen to the situation that you were mentioning. So somebody has 225 on the bench, they lower it, it's fairly heavy, and then they press, but they don't go all out, right? They're not trying to throw it through the roof. Now, you might be recruiting 60% of your muscle fibers in that case. Take the same bench press, same weight, bring it down, and then if you put maximum explosive intent, you're essentially lifting it as if it was your max. So you're putting everything you have into that rep. You're probably going to recruit maybe 75% of your motor units. Now, when we look at that extra 15 give or take percent, and these aren't exact numbers, I'm just using them as an example, you know, that's going to stimulate a greater strength response. You're going to pull more muscle fibers in to generate more force, to generate more strength. It's going to help you get stronger both immediately in that lift and then subsequently through your workout, because you've activated a greater number of muscle fibers, you'll be able to fatigue them. So, you go from a bench press, a barbell bench press at 225 to doing some more high rep work because you're trying to build muscle, like a dumbbell incline press. You're going to use more of those muscle fibers to fatigue and create a greater overall response.
Okay. I so thinking about that, is that why some people will coach and tell you that even when you're lifting just the bar, and the bar could be completely easy for some people, it could be difficult for others, but when you're when you're warming up with a bar, to really think and push just like you would, is that sort of the mental thing where you're getting that power kind of and your mind connected?
Yeah, that's really what it is. It's, like you said, both the mental aspect where you're thinking about everything needs to be locked in and generating force and keeping your focus on the lift, not swiping away on Tinder or tweeting between your sets. And then, the physiology behind it, you're going to recruit a greater number of muscle fibers and motor units for a little better performance.
Awesome. So since you are typically coaching athletes and working with high performance individuals, is this a program just for athletes, or is it something that anyone can do?
No, not at all. And the big takeaway that I really want people to get from this program is, by training explosively, by focusing on being explosive and, pushing the bar as fast as you can, using some jumps, some medicine ball throws, some plyometric type ideas, you can incorporate athletic principles into your training. So just because you're not training to get more athletic as your primary goal for being a competitive athlete, you can get some of the same athleticism boosting benefits that athletes do just by making a few small changes in your program.
So if you're not like wanting to be the next LeBron James or Cam Newton, MVP, baby, MVP. That's right. Where you at, Aaron Rodgers?
I'm going to get my cheese head. I was looking around.
I went there. So if you're not training to be the next, athlete, and that's not what you want to do, you can still, and I've talked about this on the podcast before, that I think training like an athlete is important for everyone, because athleticism can help you in many different ways. If you step off the edge of the sidewalk and you kind of catch yourself, you need to have some sort of balance and strength and athleticism to make sure you don't trip and fall and bust your face on the cement. And as we get older, developing power is just as important. If you're 80 years old, to get up out of a chair. So having that power to get up and move quickly is important throughout life. So is this a program where maybe for a few months strength is put on the back burner and you're focused on light to moderate weight and you're focused on more athletic movements, or are you also training for strength?
A lot of times we're also training for strength, because strength sets the foundation for power. So if you think about it, the simplest way to think about power is moving weight fast or moving resistance with more speed. With that in mind, we do need to keep a strength foundation in order to generate power. So, in the program itself, there are multiple programs. So we have a 12-week strength phase, a 12-week fat loss phase, and a 12-week muscle building phase. So if you directly want to focus on getting strong, yeah, we have a program for that as well. At no point should anybody get weaker when going through the program. However, it's not always the main focus.
Okay, so how many weeks are in the Powerprimer?
If you did the full thing, front to back, 36 weeks of full programming. So that's about 8 months worth of workouts.
So so you got fat loss, strength, and athleticism or power. That's crazy. Man, 8 months. So I could get the Powerprimer and basically have a whole year of workouts to do before I ever have to hire a coach again or go back at you're going to have me set.
Yes, 100%. And like I said, there's different goals for the program. So, the underlying theme is you're going to get more athletic and more explosive, through all the programs. But, you're able to, change things around as the season dictates. We're in the spring now and everybody's kind of looking to get a little bit leaner and look better at the beach or look better for cookouts, what have you. So there's some flexibility involved in there and having programs for, different goals.
Okay. So working with lighter loads, is this something, I mean, I just came off the bulk. Listeners know that. You know that. I have to say that looking at that picture of us from On It, I was like, damn, I did put on some size. Like, I felt like I could actually hang out with you guys. Like, there was, it boosted my confidence a little bit. But, I've been working with a lot of volume. I mean, it's just been straight volume, like 100 to like 150 reps, 200 reps on some things in a single workout. And my loads were light to moderate. But is this a system that's working with light to moderate that really kind of allows you to maintain a healthy central nervous system?
Yeah, and that's the cool thing about it. Everything is periodized throughout, so you're not going to be hammering, heavy weights and volume at the same time. We're going to progressively ramp you up through 4-week periods and then drop the intensity back down. So, you're getting stronger and more explosive, but you're not getting absolutely fried by the weights that you're using.
Yeah, I think I wanted to start training. I've wanted to start training for strength, but that's been my biggest worry is that I will go ape shit and just be like, I'm just going to deadlift every day. And then like by the end of April, I'm like on the floor because my brain can't function because I'm crazy, but that's just me. All right, so whether you're an athlete or whether you're a gen pop or whatever your goal may be, how does power help you build more strength?
So power, I want you to think about power as using the strength that you have. So you need a base of strength in order to generate power in the first place, but using power is going to help you refine your ability to use that strength faster. Think of a time when you've been doing a squat and you go down and you start pushing with all your might and fatigue sets in and boom, you're on the safety racks. We've all been there before. It's never a good feeling. Now, what power can do is it can help you more or less generate that force that you need to get out of the bottom of the hole in a squat faster. So rather than fatiguing and losing form and getting stuck in your squat, you can generate that strength that you do have faster. So it lets you more or less maximize the ability that you already have.
Why do you okay, so if we already have this ability, why is it something that people overlook? Like, we're either going to the gym because we want to lift really heavy shit, or we're going to the gym because we want to get really shredded, or we want to build big biceps. So why do we often overlook power as people, gym rats?
More or less, and I know you and I have talked about this privately a little bit, but trends in the fitness industry kind of go through a cyclical pattern. We've been through a big phase right now where powerlifting has been extremely, extremely popular, and that's great because people are getting stronger. However, then I think we're also transitioning now into somewhat of a bodybuilding style where we're seeing kind of a tick back, and then we also have kind of the functional crew, and then all these different cycles that seem to consistently turn. The big reason that power isn't quite as popular is there's not a competition to see who can generate the most power. You can you can deadlift the most, or you can do a CrossFit where you're combining all these different methods at once. You can do a bodybuilding competition and look at that as well. But there's not necessarily always a tangible outcome or number that you can speak to.
So basically, like, people are just like, meh, I'm not really excited about it, but it's really beneficial to all of those aspects, but it doesn't seem as flashy and as exciting.
Exactly, and that's until you do it. I mean, my clients absolutely love when they train for power, and I know we talked about this quite a bit. And using that explosive intent, being able to focus on generating the strength that you do as fast as you can, is awesome because you're building a more powerful body, and that athleticism and that strength is going to transfer over to other things besides being in the gym. So rather than just get your nut off with a big squat, it actually lets you kick ass at other things outside the gym. I love it.
Yeah, I think I like that you've talked a lot about intent and sort of connecting your mind, the mind muscle connection. Check the links in the show notes for an article about that. But I think that's an important distinction because too many times we all go to the gym and in a deep squat, all you're thinking about doing on a heavy squat is, I just got to get the fuck up. I got to get out of this. I got like, part of your mind is like, you're going to crash, you're going to burn, you're going to injure yourself. And the other part is fighting to get up, and you're not really connected to your muscles. You're more connected to the fear and the flight mode. And then bodybuilding, you got moderate or lighter weights and you're doing a lot of reps, but really there you're just sort of sometimes losing your mind and going elsewhere. But I like that you mentioned that power really connects you to those muscles, because that acetylcholine that you're going to be generating and your brain's going to produce more of is going to help you lead to bigger muscle gains and better looking physiques and more strength anyways. But I like that you mentioned that so far. All right, so in this program, I've had a little sneak peek of the program, and guys, I have to say it is excellent. It is beautifully packaged, and I already want to start on it. So, but there's a couple things in it that worried me a bit. Olympic lifts. Now, luckily, as I mentioned as we started the show, I got to be tutored by you for a few hours on cleans. I've always wanted to do the Olympic lifts, but I've never had like a personal trainer in the gym with me. Minus the internship that I had in Virginia where I went over some stuff. But like I've never had anyone there for hours really teaching me the technical aspects, because they are very technically driven. There's so many little things that you need to do to execute it properly without killing yourself. Do you need to know the Olympic lifts for this program?
No, that's the beauty of it. You do not need to know the Olympic lifts. I do urge everybody to take the time to learn. I do have a full video guide, which covers every exercise, which is in the entire Powerprimer, and do cover the Olympic lifts. However, I understand exactly where you're coming from. They are technical. They can be difficult to learn. So no, you don't necessarily need to learn the Olympic lifts hands-on. Now, what we can do as a substitute is we can use what's called the dynamic effort method. So if you're familiar with West Side Barbell, using lighter loads on exercises like a squat or a deadlift, we can still work a lot of the same components that we're going to work with the Olympic lifts. So we're talking explosive hip extension, a little bit less weight and high nervous system outputs without the same stress that we're going to get from, say, lifting 90% of a max. So there are exercise substitutions that we can use throughout. They're going to allow you to generate some of the same power outputs, yet not necessarily use the Olympic lifts.
Okay. Can you give me an example real quick? So if anyone's listening and wants to know, let's say they've got the snatch. The snatch terrifies me, and not the dirty kind of snatch. If anyone is listening and is like, oh, you're terrified of the snatch. No, I'm not terrified of that snatch. I'm terrified of the barbell snatch. So, and it terrifies me because you're pulling or can pull heavy weight up, and then you're racking it above your head, which to me is like, dude, I could like F my shoulders up, and I really don't want to have to take off time doing upper body work because my chesticles and my shoulders, like, dude, there's one thing I'm very proud of my genetics. My delts are beautiful.
They are.
I'm very proud of them. So that lift terrifies me. What sort of substitute would you use with a snatch?
So the snatch is a unique lift. One thing you and I talked about in private was the driving force behind these Olympic lifts and why they're, important. And you see in a lot of athlete programs is explosive hip extension. So that's the ability of the hip to extend using the glute primarily, hamstring secondarily, to generate force. So that's a really kind of nerdy way of saying, speed up the motion of standing up out of your chair. That's the driving force when you're using your legs of using an Olympic lift. Now, what I would use for something like a snatch, something that focuses on explosive hip extension. So that could be, a lighter squat. That could be a speed squat. So instead of doing a snatch, you could put 50, 60% of your max on a squat and perform the same rep scheme listed in the program, but do it with that maximum explosive intent that we talked about. So lift it as if it were your max, like you're trying to jump through the roof without leaving the ground.
Okay. I like that. Just don't jump with the barbell on your back. Noted. I will not make that mistake or do that. Though I have seen a guy on YouTube do it. He's doing box jumps with a barbell on his back. I'm like, that doesn't seem safe.
Dude, that is just fucking stupid.
Oh, good. Well, it's not like putting hand liquid soap in a dishwasher at a house you've rented, and it's not that stupid. I mean, who would do something like that? God, what an idiot!
Who would do that?
I don't know. That guy's probably dumb. I hope they don't let him host a podcast or anything. All right,
No.
so now talking about the Olympic lifts and talking about substitutions, is this primarily a barbell program?
Ideally, yes.
Okay.
However, the biggest thing I do like to get across is the principles are what's important. It is lifting with maximum explosive intent and lifting with the intent of, generating force. So you can apply these same principles whether you need to do a goblet squat or a barbell squat. Like I said, there are exercise substitutions throughout the program, but it is primarily designed to be a barbell-based program.
All right. I mean that it makes sense because it's very hard to do some of those. It's not hard to do with dumbbells or kettlebells, but it's a different motion. It's a different
Exactly.
yeah. It's a very different motion. Okay, so we've been talking about power and lifting fast and high intensity. Can you go into a little bit about sort of like what kind of high intensity you can expect? Because when I hear high intensity, and I'm sure many listeners or anyone now in the world, if you see high intensity, you immediately think things like complexes or supersets or trisets or Tabata training. What's the high intensity in the Powerprimer like?
Yeah, so I'm looking really from like I said, there's a lot of ways to define, intensity when it comes to training. The way I look at it is relative intensity towards your max. So if you look at like a 1 rep max chart, what percentage of your maximum effort on a lift are you using? So are you using 60%, 70%, 80%, 90%, on and on. Now, through the Powerprimer, that intensity is going to, change through a progressive model. So 1 week it could be, 50 to 60, the next week 70 to 80, third week 75 to 85, and fourth week would be 85 to 95. So you're getting progressively heavier weights in that fashion. Now, if we want to look at intensity, in terms of just being, difficult, like high intensity and supersets and complexes and stuff like that, those are intermingled throughout the program. So it's not like you're just doing, power cleans every day, 4 days a week through every program. When we get into, there's a muscle building program that is in there. There are supersets, high intensity measures like that to, get some of that metabolic stress and muscular fatigue and muscular damage that's going to help stimulate the muscle growth process. And as well in the fat loss program, because there's going to be some density type work where we're doing more work in less time to incinerate more body fat and give you a little boost in GH and some of those good benefits. So a couple different definitions of intensity are in the program, but we lift heavy, we lift light, we lift with maximum intensity or a maximum intent, and we do a good amount of work in less time depending on the program.
What's the time like for most of the workouts? Are we looking at 60 minutes or less, 45 minutes or less? Or are we looking like over an hour?
Most of the time, 60 minutes or less. That's going to depend how well you're sticking to your, your rest periods and whatnot, because those are listed in there and they are important for power. But for the most part, 60 minutes or less, because I know it's not practical for a lot of people to lift an hour, 15, 2 hours, whatever. And I understand that. And I want to give, everyone something that they can use and apply directly into their training.
So speaking of rest periods, because I'm most people are probably fairly familiar with rest periods, usually being like 60 to 90 seconds. If you're training strength, you're looking at like 2 to 3 minutes. When it comes to power, is that different? Are you going for like shorter periods of rest?
So here's the tough part with power. Compared to, like a 60 to 90 second rest where you feel that, that muscular fatigue, you get the pump and all that stuff going on, you're not going to feel that generally doing power exercises in the beginning of your training. So it's easy to get in the mindset of thinking, oh yeah, my arms aren't swole beyond belief, so I can jump right in the next set. That's not really how it works. Your nervous system needs time to recover so you can generate force. Otherwise, what happens, your technique starts to change in exercises and you stop getting some of the same benefits that you would had you been fully recovered. So when we're looking at, for example, we use a clean, that's a pretty easy example to use. Generally, we're going to talk 2 to 3 minutes in terms of rest.
Okay, makes sense. I mean, general, sort of rest period. So we talked a little about the central nervous system, and I think that's something that a lot of us sort of take for granted. especially me sometimes. I would literally would deadlift every day. I would do a four day a week power clean program if you ever come out with that. I enjoy it, but I know it's intense on the nervous system, and then you have outside stressors like life, family, work, career. Um, do you have anything built into the program to help people, with central nervous system recovery outside of the gym or just in the workouts themselves?
The biggest thing I focused on is the workouts themselves and the planning. Whereas, you're not lifting heavy week after week after week after week. The loading is going to fluctuate a little bit to give your body a break. That's really the most important thing you can do in terms of preserving your nervous system as it pertains to training. Now we can talk about different lifestyle factors and things like that outside of it. And one would be to kind of monitor your caffeine intake, how your energy is coming to the gym. Obviously, sleep quality is huge. But small things that you could do outside of the gym would be, something as simple as meditation, float tanks, massage, basic recovery methods like that are going to help you relax and, relax are going to be key for letting the nervous system calm down a little bit.
Okay, cool. Dude, a float tank. I gotta get in one of those. I've heard good things, but I just haven't done it yet. So, all right, I want to talk again back to mastering principles. That's something you've mentioned a few times, and something I have an article sitting like down the bottom of my Google Drive that I need to get back up. But it's basically it talks about mastering the basics. That it's really sexy and fun to do all these crazy workouts you can see all online, bodybuilding.com, or the Rock's workout, or like Chris Hemsworth's workout, or Captain America's. And yet, these guys have been training for a long time. Their stuff is very specific, and people want to go from the couch straight to Captain America. But mastering the principles and the simplicity of the most, of the basic exercises is important. So what principles are you working into the program that you want, people to master and create athleticism with?
The biggest thing first and foremost, and this probably gets redundant, but you have to have that foundation of strength. Without strength, you're not going to be able to generate force because there's no force to generate. So for the biggest thing right away is, build a base of strength around big multi-joint lifts and those components. Without that, nothing else really matters. Now, beyond that, I touched on this a second ago, is we're going to focus on major movement patterns. There's a reason that people have squatted and deadlifts since we knew what a squat and a deadlift, or since we knew what training was. There's a reason they've withstood the test of time. That's a very important fact right there. So don't get lost in minutia where you're changing exercises every 2 or 3 weeks because it looks fun or you see a sexy new program. Another one I consider would be based exercises based on their neurological demand. So that's a really complicated way of saying, the most explosive stuff that you do right away and the really heavy stuff needs to go in the beginning of your workout. Obviously, this can change with a little bit older populations if you have, different joint issues and whatnot, where you want to get a pump before you do some exercise. I understand that. But, you should be doing sprinting, cleaning, jumping, heavy lifting before you get into your pump work. Otherwise, your nervous system is going to fatigue and you're not going to be able to perform. Beyond that, like what we talked about a little bit before, was focus on quality over quantity. I would rather have you do 2 awesome reps than 12 so-so reps. Or, would you rather have 5 pounds of microwavable pizza or 3 pounds of authentic pizza made by a good chef? I'd rather have 3 pounds rather than 5 pounds of Totino's pizza rolls. Or
Dude, that's a great analogy. I would rather have 3 pounds of like good pizza than 5 pounds of frozen DiGiorno, which,
dude, or on that note, 3 pounds of North Carolina barbecue over Texas brisket any day.
Don't do that to me. Don't do that to me after Austin. I already listen, I had to admit it. I'm sorry, anyone in North Carolina, but it's just so good in Texas. It's so good.
Dude, I honestly like Carolina more.
Really? Well, all right. I grew up on it. I love it, but man, it was tough last week. Those ribs are so good.
They were good. That was true.
Yeah. So all right. So mastering those basic principles movements. Is this so? As we talk about that, and gaining strength. So you've got 8 months of training. Is there, if someone is, they're not completely new. Like, I don't think this is a program for someone who's just getting off the couch and looking to, go from couch to combine. Is this a program like where an intermediate or someone who's a novice that's had a few months, is there a strength portion, of this, or does it just go, power, fat loss, and I just forgot the third part. Is there strictly a 12 weeks of strength where you focus on that?
There is. And you touched on it perfectly. Like I said, somebody getting off the couch and lifting for the first time, no, this isn't the program for you. This would be something you want to build up towards a little bit. However, like you said, the principles that people should follow are through and through to every program. So, but yes, for somebody looking to get strong, they have some experience with the barbell. This plan will do that, plus get you a little bit more athletic at the same time.
Okay. And of course, they can get this over at thepowerprimer.com if they want to pick up the program as well. Because, as I said, it's beautiful. It looks amazing. And by the time this goes up, the Power Primer will have turned me into a powerful beast, more than I already tell myself that I am, I hope. But how do you, okay. So, because I enjoy talking about training like an athlete, if someone picks up this program and they've never played a sport, let's just say they've got into training in the last year or two, and they enjoy training, and really the only sort of athletic stuff they've done is lifting. They never really played baseball or basketball or soccer. If you're in Europe and listening to that right now, football. Why we call the sport football when no feet are only involved when you kick it through a goalpost makes no sense to me, but whatever. Is how will they get more athletic on this program without having some sort of sports background?
Yeah, we're going to just incorporate some basic movements that people haven't done in a long time. Some of the programs have sprinting components that are in there that are, on an incline treadmill or a hill, which is going to help them generate force a little bit faster, get more athletic. I mean, running and moving your body through space is more or less the goal of most sports, unless you're moving a big weight or another human. Lifting more explosively, what that's going to do is that's going to help you synchronize, to not go too deep into it, we call it, synchronization, be able to fire motor units faster, recruit muscle faster, put movements together faster. So, we've all tried to squat for the first time and it looks like an awkward, disjointed movement where we're, all over the place. That's a way of seeing your nervous system get more efficient once you build that progress. So it's going to help refine all your movement patterns. Think of it that way. You're going to be running, jumping, moving explosively, recruiting more muscle, and doing things that athletes do without the full-blown program to get to focus on one athletic event.
Running, jumping, pushing heavy weights. I like it. I should do a lot more running. All right, so you mentioned sprinting, and you said there are some hills. Sprinting is something a lot of people enjoy to do, but many people save it till the end of the workout. Why? And I know you've written about this before, but why is that not a good idea?
Yeah, so most times, sprinting when you're fatigued, we've all seen somebody who pops a hammy, pulls a quad, tweaks a calf, something along those lines when they're running once they're fatigued. Now, we talked about neurological demands a little bit before, and essentially what that means is the exercises that are most explosive, like a clean or a sprint, are going to be the most prone to changing technique when you get tired. And that's really the basis for sprinting before. So if you sprint before, obviously get a good warm-up in, your body's going to be freshest. Your technique is going to stay on point. If you run afterwards when your muscles are already fatigued, your nervous system is shot, you're going to be more likely to get relaxed with your technique or form, and more likely to overstride when you're accelerating, tweak a hammy, some other sort of injury. If you want to apply it to lifting, putting sprinting before anything else is essentially the same thing as lifting your heavy weights before you do all your pump work and hypertrophy work. You wouldn't want to do a drop set on squats and then try to max afterwards. It's kind of the same principle. Your technique is going to go out the window. So sprinting early on is going to preserve your technique. and it's going to help you get some of the same explosive benefits as jumps and cleans and prevent injury.
So work smarter, not harder. I like it. So you mentioned warm-ups, and I had this question down, and I'm glad you touched on it. But a lot of people overlook warm-ups. I did for a long time. My hips decided that they were going to revolt against me and demanded that I do something, or they were going to turn me into an 85-year-old man. So I listened and started implementing more mobility and warm-up stuff into my workouts. How do you warm up with the Powerprimer? I know in some of the stuff you've done before, you talked about using plyometrics before a big deadlift. When we were in Austin, we were doing the cleans before we decided to throw on a bunch of weight and deadlift. So what sort of warm ups do you do to get ready before the power stuff that you're doing for that workout?
Well, obviously, with the warm up, we want to improve overall or increase overall body temperature, just to lubricate joints, get blood flowing, all that good stuff. Now, what we're going to look at doing is incorporating some of the same movement patterns or the same, prime movers in the warm up as we're going to focus on in training. So that means if we have a workout, like you mentioned, that's going to be cleans and cleans followed by deadlifts, we're going to work on more or less activating the core. We're going to work on engaging the glutes, getting all these muscles fired up. So there's a number of exercises that are in the quadruped position, which for, I guess the English way of saying the quadruped position is essentially, down on all fours, like your dog, and doing some hip activation drills. And then some basic warm-ups like, lunges, inchworms, and some of that stuff. From there, we get into our explosive jumps. Then we go into a clean. Then we go into a deadlift if we wanted a step-by-step model.
Okay. All right. So pretty simple, but maybe a little more than what most people are doing. Because most warm-ups I see now are just some foam rolling, some static stretching, and then they're off to do their lift.
On that note, I don't mean to interrupt, but foam rolling is one thing I do not have my clients do before we get into really into our training for power, because it's similar to a static stretch in a way that it can be a deactivation reaction that your body goes through. You're applying tension or applying pressure, which is causing tension in that muscle and telling it to relax. When we want to generate force, we need tension in those muscles. We need muscles that are activated rather than deactivated. So that's one thing that is a little bit different from most programs in the Powerprimer. There is no foam rolling in the beginning.
Oh, I love to hear that. I have tried to restrict foam rolling to at home only, except I then forget it because I start writing. So what is one thing? What's something that if someone picks up the Powerprimer, again, at the powerprimer.com, what can they pick up from this program that maybe they haven't gotten in the past? What is this program going to deliver to them?
The biggest thing it's going to deliver is knowing that lifting with explosive intent is going to give you many athleticism boosting benefits that you're probably missing out on. And having those athletic capabilities is absolutely vital, like you said, going forward in life, both from a performance aspect, being able to do things that you enjoy, whether that's playing a pickup volleyball game and having a confidence that you're going to stay strong and athletic while you do that, or preventing a fall potentially as you get older. Power has a lot of amazing benefits if you focus on training to be more powerful with explosive intent, jumps, and athletic movements. Okay.
All right. I'm really glad that we've kind of harped on things as we get older, especially with power. I think that's something that many people forget. And as you mentioned, getting up out of a chair, getting that full hip extension, it's not necessarily strength. You do need the strength, but the power to initiate that is what you need to get those muscles going. And, that's what the Powerprimer is going to deliver, is giving you the power to get that muscle firing initially to improve your squats, your deadlifts, your bench, your overhead press, and all of those movements. Because the more you can connect to your muscles, the more muscle you're going to activate. Therefore, the more weight you're going to move.
Exactly. And like you said, it's not always about, using heavy weights. And, we're both talking about some older populations here. It doesn't mean I'm having, 75-year-old grandma doing power cleans. The idea isn't to more or less pick out a power clean or a depth jump or those high intensity methods, high intensity power developing methods. but it's to focus on the intent. Do everything with intent. Focus on generating force when you stand up. Don't stand up, kind of half-assed. Stand up and stand tall. Do it like you mean it. And that's a huge piece of the program right there.
I am really, really, really excited to get started on this, because I'm hoping that, as you mentioned before, and I'm fairly certain it will, because I've had this develop in other things in previous training programs. But I'm hoping that my intent improves outside of the gym as well. Have you noticed that with clients or anyone who's maybe guinea pigged on this a bit, or in yourself? How training for power has helped you not only in the gym, but connect more to your mind and better yourself outside the gym.
Yeah, man, 100%. There's a big difference between what you necessarily do in the weight room versus what you do in real life. Obviously, the things in the weight room do have a great aspect to carry over in real life. However, being able to combine movement patterns like you do in a clean and do it in the smooth, efficient manner, and to be able to generate strength fast and put your foot in front of you before you fall, or screwing around with your friends if you want to jump over something. You have to train those capabilities if you want to keep them. Otherwise, if all you do is lift heavy or just lift, with a slower tempo, trying to get as much metabolic stress for a bodybuilding style goal, you lose these fast twitch muscle fibers and this neurological capability to generate strength fast. If you don't use it, you lose it. So training for power is a very important point for your athleticism and longevity.
I am glad that you said longevity, because it's something I've started to think more about, especially as my parents are getting older, and as I see those things. So doing this for the rest of my life is my goal, because I want to live as long as I can, as long as no more crazy road trips to Austin happen with tornadoes and whatnot. But all right, so if people want to pick this up, they can head over to thepowerprimer.com to pick it up. But I want you to leave one final thought as we close out the show here, with listeners and anyone who's listening in. So talk a little bit about the Power Primer and sort of your inspiration for this, and how you want to help the world by developing more power.
Yeah, so we've talked about this, and this is something that's dear to my heart. Is I've never been happy just being an athlete, or just being strong, or just being jacked, any of those things. And I've found, none of my clients are either. They want to be the total package. Personally, when I was younger, at one point, I was kind of the smallest, weakest kid out there. I was kind of athletic, but more or less I was, the weakling. So I dedicated myself to the gym, and, built up and became a pretty good athlete. And that was great, but I was still kind of a skinny dude. So, once my playing career ended, I dived kind of headfirst into the muscle building, really focus on getting as strong as I could and getting as big as I could. And all of a sudden I found, I was losing my athleticism. At one point I was at a conference doing some movement stuff that I needed to teach my athletes, and I couldn't even skip. I was more or less kind of like an awkward teenager as they're going through their growth spurt. I couldn't even coordinate, movements. And here I was, somebody who had became a pretty good athlete. And, personally, that was really disappointing. And I saw it transfer over into other activities that I did. I was getting injured trying to play sports with friends. And this kind of event at a conference really kind of flipped a switch in me mentally that, I don't necessarily have to train like a full-on athlete, but if I incorporate some of these same principles back into my training, I can be lean, I can be strong, but I can be athletic, and I can maintain that athleticism going forward. This is a program that's not designed, for the highly competitive athlete. This is designed for the person who wants to be more athletic, while building strength, or while losing fat, while building muscle. They want to become the total package. And, from what I've heard so far, and, feedback I've gotten, is it's really delivering and helping people out. And I hope it can help you out too.
Awesome. Well, guys, again, if you want to pick this up, Eric, they can head over to thepowerprimer.com, correct?
Exactly.
Cool. Guys, if you want to pick it up, head over to powerprimer.com, grab this program. Eric's right, being the total package. That's something I've been thinking about more often as I develop in my training career. I don't want to just be a jacked dude with biceps. I don't want to just be a guy who can lift really strong. I miss playing basketball. I got to get back into it. I was an athletic kid. I played basketball. I was a speed skater. I played soccer. I did all of these things. and I want to continue to be able to do that and go. I want to go for full level 100. I don't want to be just level 65 because I'm too lazy to go after this other quest. I want to be the complete package. I want to be the paladin, the mage, the wizard, all of it, all in one. And from what I've experienced already and seen in this program, the Powerprimer will deliver just that. Eric, if anything else you want to say before we wrap up the show?
Biggest thing is, thank you for being here. Thank you guys for having me. I'm excited just to get this out there. And if you have any questions, things will be a little bit crazy with the launch, but feel free just to tweet at me at Eric_Bach, or, send me a Snapchat. I'll send a video back. Bach, Eric, BACHRERIC on Snapchat.
Oh, dropping the Snapchat. I like it. Yeah, if you're not following Eric, head over there and follow him on Snapchat as well. It's a good time. He has a beautiful dog. And
coffee.
And coffee. Lots of coffee. All right, guys. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Eric Bach, thank you for coming, Bach, on the show. Guys, head over to www.thepowerprimer.com. Check out Eric's program. And Eric, before we go, we haven't mentioned price. Is there any price on this, for the launch week?
Yes, during the launch week until midnight on Friday, $29.99. So 50% off this week only. After that, the price goes up and it's going to stay up. So, take advantage right now. It's an excellent program. There's, like I said, over 8 weeks worth of programming, a full video guide to help you out along the way. This can be a game changer for you if you take action this week.
Awesome. And you said weeks, but it's months, correct? 8 months?
8 months. You're correct. Yeah. Yep. Thank you for that.
Well, hey, $30 for 8 months is the best deal I think I've ever heard in my life. I mean, you couldn't get a personal trainer for that. You couldn't get a personal trainer for $30 an hour. So you're getting full programming for 8 months for $29.99 the first week. So guys, head over to www.thepowerprimer.com. Check it out. Follow Eric on social as well. Head over to sidequestfitness.com/Eric Bach. And I will get those show notes to you as well with links to the powerprimer.com and all of Eric's social stuff as well. And then, again, head over to thepowerprimer.com, pick up the program. 8 months of training for $30. You can't get a better deal than that. Eric, thank you for coming on the show. And anytime you want to come back on, man, let's chat some more bourbon and, and cleans and deadlifts. For sure, man. We have to. And New York City? Yeah, maybe we'll see each other in New York City. All right, we will do some there. We will have to shoot some videos. And hey, guys, one more thing before you go: make sure you head over to the iTunes store and give Robbie an awesome review. This podcast is excellent. I really enjoy seeing it and or listening to it, and that would be excellent. Thank you, sir.